Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, I got a little croak in my voice there at the beginning. Dixie coming at ya. We are officially merged, but it's almost like Mergatory, insofar as we're not guaranteed jury. There's going to be a bit of an evil double boot this round, wherein the highest two vote getters go home and do not make jury, and don't get their little cute pictures updated. So it's kind of a bummer, especially after last night's vote, which honestly has me really upset and gutted. They voted Celestia out. I think I had expected that they would, but it was still a tough pill to swallow. And just knowing that she's been going through it since around the time that Banjo left has been tough. She fought really hard, and for her to fall just short of Merge, where I think she would have had a good chance to win immunity here, with the third immunity option being on the table, it feels like she was so close, but just couldn't stick the landing. And I feel kind of guilty because I feel like if what I'm being told by folks is true, it feels like part of the reason she had such a big target on her back was because of perceptions of being close to me. And this isn't the first All-Stars game that I've played where that has seemed to be a through line. It's just really disheartening and frustrating. Obviously, everyone comes into these games with outside relationships. I think it's really disingenuous of Mouse to talk about how she doesn't have that in this game when I know for a fact that she's got a long-standing relationship with Leah. I know she's known Evie and I for years as well. I think there could also be a Geralt connection for her, going to like the whole Endure community. So I think it's just a bunch of bull that people get hung up about my friendships, in this cast, when I think I've played pretty measured, you know? I I've worked with my friends where it's made sense to work with them, but I've also fostered new connections. Conquer has consistently been one of my closest allies, Zag too. I haven't just gone with the easy connections, um, unless it made sense. I mean, I think in All Stars games it's so hard, right? Because if you're friends with somebody coming in, you've clicked with that person already. If you're not friends with somebody coming in, you don't necessarily know how that relationship is going to go. So if we go back to Liurnia, Sailor Venus clicked with Sailor Venus, but she was a loose cannon, and our game style just wasn't going to align. Lara and I have history, but it's a bit rocky. I don't think she was reliable. In that situation, it made sense for me to work with Celestia and with Banjo and even with Doom to an extent. Um, come swap, come Gelmir, um, you know, I had a really good relationship with Drybones. People voted him out first. There was not a lot that I could do about it. Um, I feel like, the maybe impression was that I would cling to my relationships with Aerith and Spyro, but I feel like Aerith and I have been on the same page in this game, even though we're definitely not always on the same page. Um, I mean, take Survival Horror 7. It's just made sense for Aerith and I to work together here. Spyro, on the other hand, has been a little a-hole, just sulking the entire game and complaining about how he and his husband are being targeted when really, from my perspective, like, I've said this a million times, but Kulava just has not been keeping up socially. And it just doesn't make sense for me, especially coming into these games where apparently it's a trend for people to obsess over my relationships. Um, to just work with somebody for the sake of them being connected to a friend of mine. And I feel like that's just pushed Spyro and I kind of apart while also maintaining maybe a veneer of working together. So yeah, to see Celestia's kind of final words in Tribal, I mean, it just sounds like it was a nightmare. And I'm glad to be able to glean some of the information that she's putting down, but it sounds like for whatever reason, Geralt and Mouse too were the ones that were specifically called out by Celeste as being the main transgressors of her downfall in this game. I expected that it wasn't Evie. I'm a little bit perplexed as to Daisy's part in everything, as well as Zero's part in everything. But we're just gonna have to see where this goes. I think I'm more troubled too, just connecting with Evie, who's been one of my good friends for many years now. Who I actually haven't even known as long as Mouse though, but who I've been closely aligned with through orgs. Like we met in an org, in one of their first orgs. We were aligned. I voted Evie out at the final 5, and she felt very betrayed by that move. And we, worked it out. We've been good friends ever since, in the sense that it's kind of like riding a bike. I don't talk to Evie every day, but when I do talk to her, it's like just picking up something that is very familiar for me. That said, I haven't played this game with Evie. Evie and I have been on opposite sides the entire game. So you can imagine my kind of alarm, I suppose you could say, when the first thing she said to me was, someone was warned that we are an unbreakable duo. That's exactly the BS that was running around on Liurnia regarding Celeste and I. So what I want to know is who the hell is saying that I'm in all of these unbreakable duos? Because it's complete BS. And it just is a really bad look, I think, for people to just assume that because I have a relationship with somebody that I'm going to forsake everything else that I've built for them. It's exhausting. So I don't know if it's pregame BS that somehow permeated onto Liurnia, because it can't be the same person that was spreading rumors about Celestia and I, and then spreading rumors about Evie and I. So I don't know what sort of kind of pre-gaming kind of situation, operation may have been going on. I don't want to speculate too much, but this is exactly the kind of BS that Liam suggested against. This has nothing to do with Battle Royale history. In this series, I have beef with certain people, Urbosa, for instance. Sure, that might be informed also by some of their chaotic just nature in other games, but I had no reason to want to work with Josh M in this game. And so yeah, I was going to vote them out because it wouldn't have behooved me to keep them in the game. But with folks like Zag and Conquer, that's not a pre-existing relationship. It's just infinitely frustrating to be in this spot, and I feel like it's the worst possible time for this to be coming to a head, because I feel like with this twist, it's so easy for folks, if they've been so pressed about me, and maybe I'm being solipsistic, maybe it's not all about me, but I keep hearing my name in these conversations. And I just feel like it's a good opportunity with the two highest vote getters being sniped for them, for whoever them is, to take a shot at me. Um, I feel like makes no sense with this group for Leah to really stick with us. So I'm just praying that she's able to, that Conquer is able to keep her ear, and she keeps in Conquer's ear and is able to at least notify him of things that are happening, um, so that we can circumvent any catastrophe. We're going to have this auction come up too. And so that's going to be another just thing that throws a wrench into any plans that we could hope to make, because there's going to be 2 auction immunities and then a third immunity. There's 3 extra votes floating around, at least 3 idols. Um, so, yeah, this is exactly the kind of mess that could easily spell the end for me. And it's just so frustrating because I can't even say, hey, like, at least I made jury at this point, because I might not. I could go home tonight, or I guess it would be Monday night at this point, and it would be a month of my life to be pre jury. And that just fucking sucks because I feel like I've worked my ass off. Pardon my language. I just am super stressed, and I feel really, really crushed for Celestia. And honestly, it just, I know it's just a game, but it's upsetting to feel like I've tried to do the ethical thing at every stage. And I know this isn't a game about ethics, but it just feels crappy to be accused of perhaps playing in a way that is untoward. I should probably see what Aerith has to say. That's not. So Aerith's in Colorado, of course she is. And so she's busy. So I honestly feel bad like bothering her because she's on vacation. Um, Chet and I are spiraling a little bit to one another. I kind of had a meltdown with her this morning. That's just kind of how our relationship tends to work. It just feels like the Evie stuff is really concerning. And let's see what Daisy said, in case it's important. Yeah, so part of me is super confused because it's like I don't know where all of these rumors are coming from. Um, so, last night I made my little Kill Bill kill list, and I feel like Daisy's on it because Daisy seems like one of the most likely reasons that people keep getting targeted based on these relationship rumors. But now I don't even know, because Daisy wasn't called out in Celestia's little speech, and Daisy claimed that she tried to keep Celestia, and she claimed that without even me like asking her what happened, which, I mean, I don't know that that really says a lot, but I guess at least she's talking to me. It's very clear that, Zero has other plans in this game based on our conversation and based on what I've heard. And yeah, I don't know. I guess I've kind of created a tier list for this occasion, that I guess will be kind of the end of this update. And so I've loaded everyone in that made the merge aside from myself. Basically, I've divided it into 5 tiers, as you can see. There's Go the Distance. These are the people that I want to be in the end game with, potentially even the finals. There's Let's Go Far, which are people that I want to work with for the foreseeable future. They're just going to see how this goes. These are people that I don't necessarily have any reason to want out, but who I guess we'll just see what happens, how that develops. Okay, jury, I guess, are folks that are not on my immediate radar, but who maybe wouldn't mind if they went in the future rounds, the immediate future rounds. And then Leave Please are kind of like all the people that I kind of wish would just go home. Like, let's boot all of them at once, not just 2. And we'll see if there's even more than 2 people in that group. Starting with Aerith, Go the Distance, clearly. I think Aerith and I would be seen as a pair no matter what, but ironically, out of all of my close relationships, she and I are definitely on the same page the most regarding who we're working with exactly. So I think that my biggest concern with Aerith and I is that she's just another one of many unbreakable duo rumors going around about me. So I doubt that people let us get to the final 4 again, but I'm hopeful that she and I are able to work together closely for a long time before anybody comes for us necessarily. Conquer is another Go the Distance, and Conquer's tough because he's good with everybody. I can tell he's in good with all of Gelmir, including the Dissolve people. I know he's going to be in good with his original Limgrave people. Not just Evie, which is I think a good in for me, but also he and Zag are very close with Zero. So it's kind of like, I guess I'm just hopeful that in the end he's going to come through for me, because I do want to go the distance with Conquer, in terms of just we vibed really quickly on Gelmir right at the beginning of the swap phase, and we've stayed locked in, but I've just noticed him not necessarily lock in with others, but I can just tell he's a very good player. I mean, he was a fallen angel in season 4 for a reason. And I think strategically he has the chops to be kind of a Dan Giesling-esque figure. And so I trust him, but I want to brace myself for betrayal if it happens, because I feel like he has so many options. I just see the way that he has a rapport with Och and even Quill and Spyro. Obviously, he's in that alliance with Quill and Spyro. He's in good with Leah, who makes me nervous. He's in good with Zero. With Leah, potentially come connections to Mouse and Geralt. So it just doesn't leave a lot of ideal options for who does Conquer want to see leave this round. That said, I've put a lot of just work in with Conquer, and to say work implies that it's a job, and it's really hasn't been a job. I just think that he's just so good with so many people that I just want to be careful, and I want to have my expectations set in a healthy place. Daisy, I was talking about Daisy a little bit earlier. I think I need to touch base a little bit more with Evie to hopefully get an accurate download of the Lendell situation, but Daisy's making it seem like she really did not like the direction that things were heading on that tribe. Um, I guess it's kind of difficult to say because if it's not Daisy driving a lot of the strategy over there, I don't know who is it, you know? Is it, are we being led to believe that it's Geralt, Nate, Symmetra, and Zero, and Mouse? I just feel like I would have thought that Daisy would be in a power position in that group. Um, but she's holding it out to me like she wants to work with Ochette and me as winners, and she doesn't want to see me go anywhere. So I'm willing to, even though I've been skeptical based on some of the things that I've heard, um, I'm sticking her and going to see how this goes because at least she's giving me something. Evie and I connected briefly, but again, it's like riding a bike. So that was a really good connection to reinvigorate, to hear some of the things that have been said about her and I already. It's kind of like the non-delusional version of Spyro's. If they're just going to assume we're together, I'm just going to lock in with them. Because with Spyro, people just didn't click with Quill because he's weak socially over text message. That said, Quill's great over voice memo and voice note, but I think outside of Altus, I don't think that that's really been a thing. And so he's just not as savvy via text. And so it had nothing to do with the two of them being married. If anything, that was an excuse. But ever since, Spyro's been like, well, nobody's gonna come between me and my man. And it's just like, I love you, Jay, but like, you're literally delusional in this situation. But if people are just gonna assume that I'm gonna align with Evie, then I'll be the same way. And I think it's good because Evie has, I think, good relationships with Conquer and Zag. And so maybe we can build something there. Girl, I'm going to put in Leave Please just because Celestia's recitation of his behavior makes him sound like a nightmare. Almost the player that I would have expected maybe Nate to be, based on some of his tribal council actions. So, I don't know. I think just one of the first things he asked me is if I'm from Endure, which is weird, because I feel like he would know that I'm not. But one of the tough things about Girl is he has an idol, public idol, and targeting somebody with a public idol at this stage is tough because of the two highest vote getters leaving. For instance, if all of Caled decided to vote for Girl and he idols, then Lendell could split their votes and get rid of two Gelmirs. So I think we just have to be really careful about who the targets are this round. And I think that Girl having an idol makes him not an ideal option. But I do want him to leave just because I feel like that's the impression that Celestia was laying down, that he's just overly duplicitous for reasons that perhaps don't make a lot of game sense. And I think that those kinds of players are dangerous and not reliable. And I think that it's a pretty juvenile way to play this game because it's really easy to lie to people, especially over text. I've done it open ID too, where it's, you're in calls lying to people. But generally speaking, it's fairly easy to lie your ass off to people, piss them off, and go far. It might not be the best strategy to win the game, but just lying for lying's sake, like, sure, you can do that over voice. And for a while, I think a lot of people are gonna, fall for it because why pointlessly lie? I just think it's a cheap way to excel. It's a little lazy, and I mean, I would rather play on hard mode because I'm actually a good player in the game, and Geralt fucking sucks, so he can eat a dick on the beach. Where's that? Um, Leah is somebody that I feel very uncomfortable about. She's an excellent player. She and I are the last Lyurnias left standing now that Celestia is gone. Um, Probably not somebody to target because Conqueror will not go for that. But I do feel like she's somebody that, from where she's standing, why wouldn't she want me out? Um, she'd get Conquer all to herself. Um, she and I were not working together on Liurnia. We've not had in-depth game talks. And I feel like that's part of that is by design because going back to the overpromising, I'm not gonna BS somebody for no reason. Um, it just feels like sloppy and like it'll open bigger problems down the line. At the same time, when all you're talking about with somebody is fluff, it's pretty apparent that the working relationship is not optimal. Leah's also apparently told Conquer that she wants to play her own game. So she feels like she's only working and we're not even really working together, but she said she only is like associating Zag and I with her game because of Conquer, and that she's very apprehensive to let the same thing that happened to them in their original season happen here. So, given that it's the merge, given that she has a lot of new and maybe familiar options in Mouse and Geralt, um, I'm pretty nervous, but I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. Um, Nate is kind of a question mark for me. Um, I think he might be an easy sell here, but I think a lot of people have thought that for a long time, and he's continued to survive on Lendell, in spite of catching stray votes several times. So I guess we'll just have to see if he's realistically going to be an option or not. That said, he does feel like maybe one of the more realistic boots for this round of the game. Um, that said, I haven't talked to him a bunch. One on one, he's been generally pleasant. He thought we were both runner ups, and I had to tell him, no, bestie, I'm actually a winner. But it was close, so you're close, which is true. Oach is tough because I know how dedicated she is. I'm familiar with her game, and I feel like the Steve round was weird, and I feel like she's making inroads with like Conquer and probably Zag, and they both bring her up as somebody to pull in a lot, and she just hasn't been as transparent with Aerith and I. So I guess we'll see. Aerith brought it up, but it's actually pretty strange that there isn't like an alliance chat between Oach, Aerith, Spyro, and myself. There are configurations of that group in threes, but there's no four person. And so it's hard to get on the same page. That said, I trust Oach. I don't think she's going to use my confidence in her against me. And I feel like I can be a similar sounding board for her. But as of right now, we're not in go the distance territory, but we are in let's go far. I think that we can be beneficial to have around for each other. And hopefully Daisy does feel the same way because there is some conventional wisdom in keeping multiple winners around, because I do think that by the time it gets down to one winner, that is going to create a potential problem for that one lone winner that is left standing at any given period in time. Quill is sweet. As I've said 1,000 times before, I know he's involved in some stuff with Spy that I'm not privy to, but he does make a consistent effort to be social, even if it is a little flat. I do like him as a person, and I don't know that it makes much sense to target him here. Iron Mouse is another leave please. I feel like based on what Evie has told me, Mouse might be the biggest, most likely culprit for pre-gaming against maybe, alias org regulars. So yeah, I'm nervous about Ricky, even though I've known Mouse longer than anyone here. I also know that the lengths that they're willing to go. They're almost like a Xavier Urbosa in that sense, that they are gonna do the most. And just maybe like sheer force of will power through the most. And real or fake, I think that Mouse has created this image in her head that she's coming in as this outside factor that needs to overcome a community that is already locked together. And really, that I don't think that's been true. I don't think that the Endim alias regular community has been locked together in this game. Spyro's been doing his own thing. Ochette's been doing her own thing. Celestia is gone, probably because of those rumors, because it's so wild to me to think that of all of the people on that swap tribe, Celestia and Banjo are the ones that wound up on the bottom. It doesn't make a lot of sense from a social perspective. But I guess it is speculation, but it is supported by circumstantial evidence that maybe she's been a driving force between some pregame sentiments about who is who in the zoo. So yeah, I don't know. Mouse could have an idol. She has an extra vote. She might be a tough one to get out. So that I think is why I'm sandwiching Nate between Geralt and Mouse, because in a perfect world, I think I would want Geralt and Mouse to be gone yesterday. But Nate might be a more realistic opportunity, especially with potential idols. It's going to be next to impossible to keep a plan quiet in this group. It's just too big, too incestuous. Yeah. Spyro. I'm gonna put Spyro here. Obviously, it's tough. Jay's been annoying me lately, but there is still an affinity for him. I think that a lot of it came to a head with the Steve vote and just kind of how everything went there. I feel like Aerith and I really went to bat for Spyro with Conquer and Zag, potentially to our detriment, because I think every time that we go to bat for somebody that's rumored to be close with us, it makes us look like kind of the greedy ones. And then I feel like he's just basically reciprocated that with not really looking out for me. He's in an alliance with Leah and Quill and Conquer. He's in an alliance with Conquer, Zag, and Aerith. He's in an alliance with Aerith and Ochette. He didn't tell me about his idol for a while. I don't know, his attitude is pretty negative and gets exhausting. And I think it's starting to rub off on me, if this confessional is any indication. Um, Symmetra, somebody that I know of but have not played with before. Um, Spyro told me that he thinks she's boring, but that some people really love her. We had a fine conversation. I think that um, just based on the fact that we've played, this is day 28 now, we played 27 days apart. I have a feeling Sims loyalties are going to be locked in elsewhere. But it was a pleasant enough conversation. I didn't find her to be extremely dry or boring, um, as maybe Spyro would have led me to believe she might be. I also think Spyro has an interest in kind of planting seeds against anyone that might be close with Zero. And I think Sim and Zero maybe a pair to an extent. Um, which kind of brings me to Zero, who I think is also an okay jury, I guess, kind of person. Um, Out of the more extensive conversations that I had last night, Zero's was definitely confirmation for me that we're not on the same page in this game. Um, just because having been a close ally of his, I know how he talks to his close allies, and he was not treating me like a close ally um, last night. So, yeah, I think then Zag. I'm going to put Zag in Let's Go the Distance because I do feel good about Zag. And I would like to go the distance with the activists. Do you think that it's never too early to be just considering who you might want to sit with in those final three chairs? Zag's brought up final three with Conquer before, so I think it's an option. Um, that said, I don't know about my chances in that final three because, I mean, maybe they split votes, but I just don't want to be the goat, you know? I don't want to be seen as the pick me that just went along with the guys. Um, and I don't feel like there's really much to warrant me picking them over Aerith based on just the working relationships that I've had. With Ochette, I think to a degree there is, just because of where we've been in this game. I think it would be justified to, make a move against Ochette at a certain point, but I don't know that I necessarily have the, quote unquote reasons to turn against Aerith for Conquer and Zag. Um, I think that they'll be seen as the ones that were more in the driver's seat, especially Conquer. So we'll just have to see what happens. What an even spread, y'all. I guess I should maybe call it call it an hour, call it a half an hour. I know these are so long, I'm so sorry, but I just feel like there's so much going on. Um, it's going to be interesting. Things are going to change a million times. I'm just hoping that I can make it over this hurdle because it's such a milestone and it would feel so awful to fall just short of jury. It's not that I'm necessarily content making jury, but it is a bucket list item. It is a milestone in Survivor. I mean, first you want to, I mean, there are certain points in the game that you just want to make it to. And if you fall just short, it sucks. And being the last of the pre-jury is an excruciating place to fall. Normally I do very well in these games, but there was one game in my years of playing these where I did go as basically the last of the pre-jury, and it's a gut-wrenching spot to go out at. So yeah, so Liam, this is evil, but we'll see. We'll see if Dixie can work her magic and somehow figure out a plan to live. More to come later. Dixie out, y'all.